put down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. Get ready for 60 minutes of wall-to-wall photography, including photo news, Tog tips, and image reviews to help you improve your photography. Here's your host, Joe Edelman.
Hey gang, thanks for joining me for TogChat episode number 63. I am indeed Joe Edelman, and my mission is to help photographers like you develop a solid understanding of the hows and whys behind great photographs. So listen gang, number one, thank you so much for being patient. YouTube is just being slow tonight. I don't know what the deal is. Contrary to what you think, I had my soda. I was ready to go. I don't really know what was going on with YouTube, but right now it says everything is good. Hopefully it's going to stay that way. It's great to see all of you guys here. Trevor's here. Trevor was here way early. Marcus, Steve McCarthy, Roy Patton. I got both Trevors. Troy, you're late. I'm sorry. But fortunately for you, I was late too, kind of. So let's see. Joe McFarland's here. Kim O'Hagan. Kenneth Preston, Brett Anderson, Robert Bechtel, Doreen's here from Barbados. How we doing? Stan. And we have a special guest tonight, folks. It is Pat Green, who is the creator of Stand Daddy. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So guys, thank you so much for spending your Monday evening with me here on TogChat. I'm going to cough. Coke fixes that. There we go. So listen, I have some really cool photos that we are going to review tonight. And we're going to take kind of a little trip around the world while we do it. And of course, I'm going to take your questions. I'll do my best to answer them for you during the live show or during the second half of the live show. So stay tuned, okay? Now, before we get going, as always, I need you guys to please take a moment, tell your photography friends that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. You know, Twitter, Facebook, they're the fastest way to get the word out. So please go ahead. And just in case you haven't done it yet, please make sure that you check out my latest video, okay? So if you are not subscribed to my channel, and I'm very sorry, I just don't know why you wouldn't be subscribed to my channel, but please, you need to subscribe. The last video that went up just this weekend, right here, a foolproof way to windproof your light stands. And actually, light stands, tripods, you name it, it works for all those things. Please check that video out. We also have a little special treat for you regarding the product that is in that video. So that video is about this little gadget here. This gadget is called a Stand Daddy. The link to the video is in the description below. I call this gadget a better than DIY gadget. And the reason I call it better than DIY, you guys know that I'm all about doing the DIY stuff, right? I do tons of those DIY videos. This thing is so simple, so inexpensive, like it wouldn't make sense to try and make it myself. But this is what a Stand Daddy is. This is the 1-inch one. So basically any tripod or light stand leg that is smaller than 1 inch, you slide it over, tighten it up, it holds a weight plate in place. You can get a 20% discount on Stand Daddy by visiting standdaddy.com. I am going to make sure that you guys get the link in the chat window right below. So check that out. You'll be able to go and do that. But before you do, and of course we want Stand Daddy to make some money, but Stand Daddy has been kind enough to give me one set of Stand Daddy, so a box of 4 to give away to you guys tonight during the live show. So here's how that's going to work. It's really simple. What I need you guys to do is to visit my Facebook business page, okay? So I'm going to give you the link here, and Chad, my buddy Chad, he'll follow up and he'll give you the link again in a second. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste it in so that you have it. While we're on the air tonight, visit that page. And what you're going to do is you're going to scroll down and you are going to share that link right there, that post that's all about my Stand Daddy video, okay? Real simple. Facebook tells me who shares. Tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm going to go through the shares and I'm going to pick a winner. I'll reach out to you. I will let you know that you have won. I'll get your contact information, and Stand Daddy will put a set of these in the mail to you. So go ahead, follow the link that's in the chat window. Make sure that you share that post so that we tell people about this and about my video, and you'll have a chance to win them, okay? So you're gonna share it. In fact, do me a favor, go share it in some photography groups. Now, don't share it in my photography group. Everybody in there knows about it, but share it in some other photography groups and let people know not only that Stand Daddy is a really cool idea, but also there's this crazy guy named Joe Uddleman that's doing videos on YouTube, okay? So whatever you do though, when you share it into the other groups, please make sure you follow all the group rules. Don't get in trouble for spam and all that kind of stuff. But maybe share it as a helpful tip to tell people that you find my channel really helpful. So again, I'll pick the winner tomorrow morning, notify you, and I will put that person's name in the description if you guys want to check back and see who that winner was, okay? All right, gang, so I want to go ahead, let's dive right into the photo reviews. That's what we're here for, so let's get to the good stuff, all right? Our first picture, oh, and by the way, remember, if you would like to have your photo reviewed here on TogChat, join my Facebook group. That's all you got to do. The link is in the description below. My buddy Chad's going to paste that link here into the chat window for you also. I pick 4 to 5 images every week. And remember, they're not always like the best images. That's not my goal. It's not to like wow people. The goal is to be able to teach people. So I'm looking for 4 or 5 images that I can teach some lessons with, okay? So if you would like to have your photo reviewed here on the show, that's all you've got to do. Join the Facebook group and I'll take the photos from there. So tonight, I told you we're going to take a trip around the world. In fact, I don't have any images tonight that come from the United States. So we're going to start off in Canada, and then we're going to move over to the Middle East, and then to Belgium. And as long as I have time, we're going to finish with a visit to India. So our first photo here, you can see all the stats in the upper left-hand corner of the shot right up there. Comes to us from Khurram in Toronto, Canada. So all of your specs are there. This was his first post in my Facebook group. Now, he's been shooting since 2008, but it's only been the last couple months that he's been really trying to work on lighting. So he lit this shot with a Yangwano, a YN564, camera right with a reflective umbrella directly on camera right and a bit above the camera. He's got a second Yangwano on camera left, a bit behind the subject with no modifier. And that's that rim that you see coming in over here. So the entire reason for this shoot, he tells me, was to experiment with his brand new Yangwano flashes. So we decided to practice with his 7-year-old son. He asked him to play around and make different faces while he took pictures. So fortunately, he obviously had a very willing subject here, okay? So his goal was to experiment with both hard and soft light in the same shot. So you'll notice, obviously, half of his face has the soft light. That's the side with the umbrella on camera right. The other half has the hard light, which is the rim, because he's letting that rim come forward quite a bit. Something to point out for those of you that haven't used rim lights a lot or maybe are thinking about using rim lights, when you are setting your rim, and you know I'm the no rules person, but as a good rule of thumb, you're not going to want that rim light to hit the tip of the nose. Usually if you light up the tip of the nose when it's on the darker side of the face, it becomes a distraction. So Khurram has done a really, really good job here of bringing that rim forward, but not going too far forward. And believe me, with a little kid who's being like very active and silly and making faces and all that kind of stuff, that's like quite a challenge to be able to do that. So, he was looking for something that had maybe a little bit of a gritty feel, but also, was fun, had some emotion to it. And of course, it's a kid, so a little bit of innocence all at the same time. So he tells me that he's happy with the outcome. He felt that it's one of the most expressive photos he's definitely ever taken of his son. If he could change anything in the shot, and you guys know that I ask this of everyone that posts pictures in my group, he thinks that it might have been more effective if it was on a black background. He points out he's still very new to post-processing, so he's looking for any advice that he can get on that at all. So, Khurram, first of all, I have to tell you, this is an awesome shot. I absolutely love it when you first posted this. This caught my attention right away. And while there's not a lot of lessons to this, there are a few things that I wanted to point out that I think are really good teaching moments for everybody. So, number one, when it comes to photographing kids, obviously your challenge is they're not going to sit still. They're not always willing subjects. And you're going to see we actually have quite a few kid pictures tonight. What I love about this shot is that you were able to get him engaged. Clearly, he's having fun. you were able to get him to kind of work with you and collaborate with you by making these big expressions and these big faces. I want to point out also the composition here. It's not a rule of thirds. It's not dead center. It's slightly off. I love that. Those who are diehard rules people will say, no, he needs to be, over or in the middle. No. I love the fact that it's slightly off center. I am glad that you put the extra space, and it's not a lot of extra space, but the extra space on the side that is where your key light is. I think that was a very, very good call there. Eyes a little bit above the horizon, not quite at the upper third mark, but still a little bit above the horizon, so it's not looking like you had your focus spot dead center in the frame. With regards to processing and background, I would not have done this on a black background. I honestly think this shot loses so much oomph if you put it on a black background. Obviously, it's your son, so it has kind of an emotional attachment to you. So I think you'd still like it very, very much. But I got to tell you, I love the fact that, and I don't know exactly what color your background was. It looks like it could have been white that just kind of, the light faded off because you don't mention any background lights. Or maybe even it was a gray, or maybe you did a little tweaking to that background in post. But I love the fact that that background's got a little tiny bit of red in there. It's got a little tiny bit of yellow in there, and it brings it into the tonal range of his skin tone, which I think is awesome. So I would not have gone to black at all, okay? And as far as processing, I gotta tell you, I think you're doing absolutely fine with processing. With a young child, you really don't want to go crazy with processing. I mean, certainly it's not like you're gonna go out there and start doing frequency separation, and you don't need to remove every tiny little blemish and wrinkle on his face and every stray hair. A 7-year-old boy, we expect them to have stray hair, messy hair, all that kind of stuff. So I think that you've done, absolutely fine there. And for that, I wanted to congratulate you. I think it's just, it's outstanding shot as far as that's concerned. Okay? So before we move over to our next shot here, let me switch back really quick and just remind you guys, if you have questions, see right there, okay? If you have questions, make sure you click, okay? Go to that address, tog.chat/questions. Fill it in. Second half of the show, I will be doing the Q&A, and I'll try to get as many questions in as I can. I've got quite a few in here already, but indeed, if you've got a question that you really want answered, super chat. Super chat, you can donate as little as $1, and that guarantees that I will answer your question, even if I have to stay here late. Just click on that $sign. It's in the lower left-hand corner of your chat window, and that will get your question answered for sure. And of course, the last piece of this, guys, we have to mention this. Please make sure that you're following me on social media. Obviously, it would be really appreciated if you would just take a second and hit that thumbs up button. It doesn't hurt. It's easy to push, and it's really, really appreciated. And of course, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, please do. That way you'll be notified as new videos come out and are posted. You'll find out right away, okay? So our next shot for the night here, let's go ahead and make a switch on the screens, and we are going to leave Khurram's photo, and we are going to go to Iraq and this photograph from Saad, and I love this. I absolutely love it. So you guys know I don't get on here and drool about pictures too much. So all of your tech specs, upper left-hand corner. It's all there, okay? Let me give you the background that Saad provided for this. So his wife asked him to take a photo of their son in his new, and I'm afraid, and in fact I'm pretty positive I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly. I believe it's Gargian dress, and the goal was to show his son's Gargian style. So I looked this up because I didn't know what that meant, honestly. Turns out it's a Muslim holiday for kids where they ask for candy, which is kind of like Halloween here in the US. And that would be the little bag that he's got his hand into. So this shot was lit with one 400-watt second strobe. It was a 70 by 100 centimeter softbox on camera left and above. And then on camera right, a large reflector. So nice, simple lighting. It's a one light shot, which I think is brilliant. Saad is very satisfied with everything except his son's pose. He mentions his son was very difficult to pose. He just wanted to run around and jump. And let's face it, imagine trying to photograph a kid on Halloween when they're about to go out and get candy and everything. They don't want to sit still for pictures. They want to be out and collecting the candy, right? So Saad says if he could change anything, it would definitely be the pose. He would have him look at the camera. Obviously, he was trying to get his son to do that, but his son was more interested in looking around. And in this particular case, just he shot what he could get. Also, the point that Saad made when he posted the picture is that he's read some books that are posing books, and they talk about the idea that if you're trying to shoot fashion photos, that eye contact isn't important. So he's a little bit confused because he's not sure if that would be better or not, since this picture was kind of about the outfit and not just, about the little boy. And he's also, last piece here, he's looking for a little bit of feedback on his post-processing. Apparently some people have told him that his processing looks a little bit HDR-like. So he's not really sure if he should take that as a compliment or if it's bad. And the ultimate question is, how do you know when to stop? How much is too much? So let's go back first of all. So Saad, I talk a lot about the idea that when you show someone a picture, no one else, even your wife, no one else will have the exact same experience that you do with that photograph. So obviously, that being said, I look at this photograph, I see a handsome young little boy. I don't see my son like you do. I love the picture. I love the fact that he's looking up. And you folks know I am Mr. Eye Contact. I'm all about having eye contact. I just absolutely love this. Troy Hall, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate it. His eyes are just so big and that they're absolutely awesome. I think you did an incredible job with the lighting. And I will tell you that I think you did an amazing job with the post-processing. I'll come back to your actual question on that in a second. So certainly as his dad, I'm sure you would like him looking at you with maybe a happy smile, etc. For me, it does not faze me at all. I actually think it adds a little bit more impact to the shot. And I'll tell you why. Some people will look at your photo and say, gosh, I wish I could see his hand. Now, the problem there is, because obviously he's got one hand in the bag. The problem there for those of us like here in America who are not Muslim and who do not know this holiday, and I didn't know this holiday until I Googled it to find out, we would kind of wonder, why has he got his hand in the bag? What's that all about? So some people may say that. For you, for your family, for your wife, for your friends, obviously you understand the holiday, you know the holiday, so it's not a problem that his hand is in there. I did see on your Facebook profile, Saad, that you have another photo of him where he's looking down and his hand is out of the bag. So in a perfect world, it might be nice to see his hand. But in this case, I think what works for you, so it's kind of a double-edged sword here, the fact that he's looking up and away and that those eyes are so captivating, you really don't even notice it. I didn't even notice the hand being in the bag until I had looked at this image a couple times over, okay? So your statement about fashion and posing, you read correct, but just make sure you understand it's not a rule. So what I mean is, for those of you that might have missed that, generally speaking, when you look at fashion photos, and I don't mean catalog pictures, I mean fashion photos in a fashion magazine, generally speaking, the models do not make a lot of eye contact with the camera. There's a simple reason for that. If the model is beautiful, and I say if because not all models are. Some models are kind of odd and awkward, intentionally. High fashion models in particular. But if the model is very beautiful and she stares straight down the bow of the lens, the risk is people will spend more time focused on the model and her eyes and her face than they will the clothing. Now, what is the point behind a fashion picture? It's the clothing, right? So it's not like a rule, but indeed, for the most part, fashion pictures, you won't see the models looking at the camera. If you look in catalogs, you'll see both. You'll frequently see the pose where, the model's kind of looking it off, look a little bit of diva-like, just looking away in the distance. And then you'll see the pictures where they're looking straight into the camera lens, but really happy, like, I love this outfit. That's kind of the thing there. So definitely, Saad, there's no right or wrong in terms of the idea that he's looking. And now to the tough question. The question about how much processing is too much, because this is a question that essentially just begs tons and tons and tons of opinions. So here's my opinion, because there is no rule. So let's be very clear that there is no rule. The only person that can decide how much is too much is you. Anyone else that weighs in on that, it's just their opinion. So for me, I would suggest that what you are creating here, James Brown, thank you so much, man. And I'm really glad to hear that's a super chat from James Brown. I'm so thrilled to hear your photo shoot went well today. I'll look forward to seeing your photos during our Patreon chat this Friday. James is one of my patrons on Patreon. If you really want to get the inside scoop on what's going on and have a chance to talk and chat, you should consider joining my Patreon group. It's patreon.com/Joe Edelman. You can become a member for as little as $1 per month. That's $12 a year. And that gives you the ability to join us every Friday for a chat using Zoom, where it's a video chat. So everybody gets to see each other, we get to talk, and we do all kinds of stuff. We talk about different photography techniques. We'll talk about Photoshop stuff. I do some little Photoshop demos in there. So back to the processing. I don't think it's too much. I do think it is, what's the word I would use? I would use stylized. And I like that. There is a member of my group that I tease on here quite frequently, and I don't know that he's actually here tonight or not, but he's from Down Under, and his name is Anand, and he does a lot of kind of portraits and glamour type shots. He's a frequency separation guy. To his credit, when I first met him, he was a little heavy on it, but he's kind of really backed off. But his images have a very distinct look and feel to them. And it's beautiful. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So in your case, what I saw in a few of the images when I looked at your Facebook profile is you indeed have a bit of a style. So people telling you that, you know, your stuff looks a little HDR, your stuff's crisp and it's sharp and the lighting is crisp. And I love it. I think you're doing great. So my honest advice to you is, don't worry what other people think. If you are happy with it and you're enjoying it, go for it. I really love what you're doing with this shot, a lot. Congratulations, okay? All right, so next up, I already told you guys about Patreon, so I can skip that in my notes here, and we're gonna go right to Dubai. So I told you, we're gonna move around the world tonight, okay? So this comes to us from Jean. It's done with a Sony. For all you Sony folks, there you go. There's your first Sony picture tonight, and it's a bokeh picture, right? So his goal was to shoot on the streets using ambient light only so that he could practice seeing and understanding available light and how to take advantage of it, all right? So his model is lit by the lights of the palm tree that's in front of her, plus the ones behind her are providing a little bit of the rim. He did his post-production in Lightroom only. He says that his biggest challenge was to pick a good angle and frame it in a way that there's no strangers walking around in the background or other distractions in the shot, and of course, to make the lights work on her. He took his time with the exposure and his white balance settings. He wanted to get as much done in camera as possible. So let me start by saying congratulations for taking the time to assign yourself to really learn to see light. Bravo. So many of you that are here listening tonight need to follow this gentleman's lead and do the same thing. Really, really, really important, okay? Now, that being said, I found it interesting that in my Facebook group, when this image went up, a few folks commented that they felt the bokeh balls should be bigger in the background. That's one of those things when I read that, I have to be honest, so I'm sorry because I know that I'm ultimately potentially going to insult a few people when I say this, but when I read comments like that, my honest reaction is like, why? When did the background become more important than the foreground? Really? I mean, look at this subject. She is gorgeous. Why do we care about the size of the bokeh balls in the background? Let's focus on the subject. So that being said, I know that's a thing with a lot of Sony users, and I'm not dissing Sony users, but we hear about it more from Sony users than we do anybody else, okay? I'm just saying, don't shoot me on the messenger. So I love the background. I love the foreground. I think it's great. Obviously, this was shot at a little bit of a higher ISO. We're at 640. There is actually a surprising amount of noise in this image, but to be fair, this is a file that came off of Facebook. So we know it's been through, Facebook's processing on top of everything else. And I do believe, if I read in the comments, that he was going for a little bit of a kind of film look, so he may have added some grain to it. So I'm not a big fan of that personally, but I totally respect that. If that's a style choice that you really like and you want to do it, go for it, okay? So there's one thing that I primarily wanted to point out about this shot, and this goes back to a video that I did last summer about using reflectors the wrong way and holding reflectors underneath the subject. So now we know there's no reflector involved in the shot. This is all the available light. So I have to tell you that I think you did a great job finding a natural light setting where you could work with this young lady, because doing this kind of stuff at night, outdoors, this is tough. If you've never tried doing shots like this, where you're not adding, you're not adding any light, you're working strictly with what you find and you're doing it at night, this is not easy at all. But since you mentioned that you're learning and you're practicing, I want to make sure that you're seeing one very important aspect that's happening in this image, and that is the top shadowing. So obviously I can't see the entire surroundings here, but what I do know is that there are clearly some lights that are brighter coming from below your subject. And I know that for several things, or several reasons. One, the top shadowing that I see on her breasts that are causing me to see the ribbed edges of her bra, the shadows above the breasts instead of below the breasts, which is where we normally see them. I've got shadows on the top of the nose, and we can see if we look close that the catch lights in her eyes, the bottom ones, are every bit as bright, if not brighter, than the top ones. So this, of course, is one of the big challenges that you run into when you're doing available light stuff like this, where you don't have that much control and you're not taking supplementary lighting. So for me, would I have shot this picture the way it is? Oh, hell yes, absolutely. What I would have done then in post, I literally would have reversed the shadows. Because the great part is, the shadows really only play into the shot above the breasts, top of the nose, and if we want to get real picky, there's a little bit of extra shadow right above the buckle or the top of the jeans. So, if we're really anal about details, we take that out too. And then we could soften down the collarbone a lot, but these almost disappear simply because we expect there to be some shading at the collarbones, even with natural lighting. So I just wanted to show you, and obviously this is working off a Facebook file, so I don't have the original raw file, but if you guys watch the shadow areas real quick, because I'm going to flip the screen here. If you watch the shadow areas that I'm talking about, specifically your face, top of the breasts, if we switch them, the shot takes on a very different feel. So I just did a really, really quick hit. Again, it's a small file. It's off of Facebook, but put some shading on the bottom, took a lot of the shading off the top of the nose, etc. So my advice to you, one other thing, I don't know if you guys noticed what else is different here. I'll talk about that in a second. But my advice to you would be, number one, keep doing this kind of stuff. Awesome. Train your eyes to be even sharper, to be even more intuitive about the light. So by no means am I saying like, oh yeah, you did a really bad job here. I'm saying I'm thrilled that you did this. I just want to make sure that you are seeing those top shadows, okay? Second thing is, spend some time in Photoshop, learn how to take them out. This image is a great practice image for you. So go back into Photoshop with this image and practice. I would love to see, and please post it in the comments of your post in the group. Don't put it in as a new post, but put it in the comments of this image. After you've done it, I would love to see what you come up with, okay? And then last but not least, a lot of you probably thought this when you first saw the picture come up, Joe's gonna say the earrings are a problem. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, this woman is gorgeous. The eyes are beautiful, and then there's these two big white balls hanging off of her ears. So you'll notice when I did my quick little shadow change, I took them out and just see how much less of a distraction it is. See how much more we're able to focus on her. Because again, remember, I bust on people about the background bokeh and all that stuff all the time. I love this kind of stuff with big round bokeh balls and all that, but I'm not going to stress that much about the background. So, I love this kind of picture. I love the fact that it's done all natural, that we're not adding reflectors. I love it. I absolutely love it. But indeed, it kind of ups the challenges. And remember, you guys hear me say all the time, great photography is about great problem solving, period. Okay? But congratulations, really, really good job. All right, so we're going to keep skipping around the world a little bit here, and we are going to go to Belgium now. And this shot comes to us from Paige Addams. I'm going to blow this up a little bit bigger so we can see it. So this is a really, really cool boudoir shot, okay? All of your tech specs are up here in the upper left, and yes, that is not a typo. That is ISO 2000, okay? So Paige gave us some really cool background information here, and also a really great problem-solving scenario. So follow along, all right? This is the boudoir shoot that she did with a freelance model. She really wanted to work with this model. She's been following her online. Turned out the model was very easy to collaborate with, and that made the whole experience of working with her really great. They shot in a hotel, so this was a relatively small space. They did a one-light setup with, or she started with, I should say, a one-light setup with an Elan Chrome D-light and a small softbox as the modifier, and she had it placed against the wall all the way on camera right, as close to the wall as she could get it, and basically aimed in at the subject. So you had a little bit of light bouncing off the wall, a little bit of light going directly at the subject, right? That's not what you're seeing here though. So she ran into two major problems with the shot. So number one, it was a challenge to make sure that she wasn't in the picture. In other words, her reflection in the shot. So it took quite a bit of work to get a shooting angle where she could get the model in the shot twice, not have herself in it. That was really important, okay? Number two, and this was the big one, with her strobe dialed down to the lowest setting and then working with the camera settings that would match that, she pretty much wasn't able to get enough ambient light to work with. So the table light that you're seeing there, either it had no glow or it looked turned off. So let me give you an example because Paige was kind enough to share that in the Facebook group. So this is what she was looking for, this top shot. This is how she wanted the lampshade to look. Now, mind you, we didn't even get to the subject yet, right? We're dealing with the lamp, which it's a piece of the image that really takes a lot of attention. So it's important that we pay attention to this. So she wanted this kind of a feel to the lamp. So this is what she was getting initially. You can tell that the strobe is set up here. And it's nice light when you look at it in the mirror. It's kind of boring light when you look at the model over here. But the lamp is just like, bleh. It's kind of yellow on this side, on the shadow side, because we're getting the tungsten. It's white on this side from the strobe side. So that's what she was dealing with. So here's what she did. She played around a little bit more with the balance between the flash and the ambient, kind of moving the flash back and, all that stuff. But bottom line, didn't like it. So everything she came up with was way too obvious that it was lit with the flash. And the goal was to not make it lit like flash. She wanted that really, really moody light. So the solution, I've done this before. It's a great solution. It's gotten me out of trouble more than once. She moved the strobe as close to the model as she could without getting it in the shot on camera right, and used the modeling light from the strobe as the light source. So in other words, the flash never fired in the finished picture. The modeling light provided the light, okay? And she admits, she knows that she could have gone ahead and put the camera on a tripod, exposed for the flash, set a longer shutter speed, all that kind of stuff. She didn't take a tripod with her. She also didn't have neutral density gels available to put inside the softbox. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't have done either. I would have done exactly what Paige did here. When I work in tight spots like this and I'm going for a moody light, that's a time where I will try to avoid strobes altogether. And if anything, I will take along literally some extra tungsten lights or some LED lights to supplement the existing ambient light, but not to actually light it independently, okay? So her post-processing was done in Photoshop, and I would have to say, Paige, like, congratulations. Excellent, excellent job of solving the problem, because we've got more detail, more color in the lampshade. We've got really nice light on the subject. And I like the fact too, I have to be perfectly honest with you, that this is a pretty racy outfit, and it's shot in a not so racy way. So it actually is. It's a little bit more suggestive, a little bit more subtle, but really, really awesome. Absolutely love it. Congratulations. Okay. All right, gang. So we're at 7:15 here, and I told you we might finish up at India, but I'm going to save India for next week because I've got a whole bunch of questions here, and I want to get into the Q&A for you guys. So I promised you that we would do these questions, and I want to try and make sure that I get through as many as possible. So listen, just a reminder, if you want to have a shot at winning a Stand Daddy, okay? And it's a set of Stand Daddies, by the way. Visit my Facebook page, share that link for the post that I did about the Stand Daddy video. Share it in a photography group, okay? I'll be checking the shares tomorrow morning. I'll announce the winner, and Pat from Stand Daddy will send you your set of 4 Stand Daddies. And again, these things are awesome. By the way, the one thing I didn't mention in the video, which I really should have, they weigh like next to nothing. So that's the best part. Like, it's not like a lot of people, for those of you, maybe you've read the comments in the videos, there were some people that wrote in that they've been doing something like this for ages. You know, they were all defiant, like, hey, your idea is not that great. And they talked about the fact that they were using dumbbell collars. Well, dumbbell collars, on one hand, are a great idea. But dumbbell collars, and by the way, if you don't know what dumbbell collars are, so dumbbells, those are those, weights, okay, that you can change the weight of it. So it's a bar. And the collar is like a clamp that clamps on it, so it holds the weights on so they don't fall off, right? So dumbbell collars work great if your light stand or tripod is exactly 1 inch in diameter. Most light stands and most tripods aren't exactly 1 inch in diameter. That's a problem. Also, every dumbbell collar that I've ever used, even the ones that are made out of heavy-duty plastic, they're heavy. They've got quite a bit of weight to them. These don't. If you watch closely at the end of the video, I put one of these on a collapsible light stand that has a flat leg. That leg is no more than 3/8 of an inch thick. And it's not round, it's flat. This works perfect, okay? So anyway, if you want to win your set of Stand Daddies, share that post, follow the link, and just in case you have not gone ahead and posted a question, now is your time. Let me go ahead and post this in there. There you go, all right? So the first question that I have for tonight comes to me from Steve McCarthy. And Steve says, this is in regards to pricing for prints. Do you have a certain formula that you would use to arrive at a reasonable price for prints? Obviously, whoops, I'm sorry, I lost the rest of the question there. Obviously, professional labs are better quality than the local Walmart, but we have to justify why our prints cost so much compared to them. I know we have to look at the cost of business, etc., and a bunch of variables to come out somewhere where we need to be, as each image takes retouching, etc., to get it on the paper. I'm wondering if you have a rule of thumb for any pricing. For example, a percentage of what it costs from the lab. Wow, Steve. Okay, so Steve, I'm actually going to defer you on that question to 2 different resources, okay? So I personally don't have a rule of thumb. Full disclosure, I have not sold a print in 10 years. And I'm really actually very happy that I have not sold a print in 10 years. I was able to get away from doing printing a long time ago because remember, I was doing mostly modeling portfolio stuff. I figured out a long time ago I did not want to be bothered with printing. So I did one of 2 things. At first, when I decided, look, I don't want to be selling pictures. I want to get paid for my photography. The first thing I did is I started just including the prints in the package price, and I was printing them myself. I had a nice Epson printer. I did my own printing, and that was it. Then for a while, I kind of did it as an option, and at that point, I literally just mandatorily set a price of $50 for an 8x10, which, believe it or not, based on what wedding photographers charge in that's actually very reasonably priced. But I'm being completely honest with you. I didn't even bother using any formula. It was literally $50 to discourage people from buying it, because most models wouldn't spend $50 for an 8x10 print for their portfolio. The resources you want to check. Number one, 2 organizations. The first one is ASMP. That's the American Society of Media Photographers. I believe it's asmp.org. Check out their website. The other one is PPA, Professional Photographers of America. Both of the, and by the way, Steve, if you're doing stuff where you're going to be selling prints and you're not a member of PPA, I would aggressively encourage you to consider joining PPA. I make no money for that. It's not an affiliate thing, gang. PPA is a great organization. Number one, as part of the membership, costs you somewhere between $200 and $300 a year, which I get it. That sounds like a lot of money. Come on, guys, look at what the stuff in your camera bag costs, right? Okay, so that $200 to $300 a year, the first thing that it gets you, and believe me, there's a lot of great stuff, but the first thing that gets you is, it gets you, I think, $15,000 worth of equipment insurance included as part of your membership. And you can add to that if you need to. You can take out additional riders, okay? But not only does PPA have great educational programs that are available online, they have an incredibly vibrant discussion forum community, but they have really, really great pricing resources and really, really great lessons about breaking the whole thing down in terms of how you should figure out your exact cost of doing business, etc. ASMP does it similarly. The difference between the 2 organizations, ASMP is more of the commercial photographer side of things, advertising photographers, okay? PPA is portrait wedding people and some advertising photographers as well. So I would encourage you to start there. Indeed, if you Google it, you're going to find a ton of resources. Those 2 are the best that I have ever seen, by far. Tons of detail, great information. And that's really the only reason I'm avoiding your question, because I don't want to muddy the waters with part of the story, since I only have a few minutes to answer your question. So, Steve, I do hope that helps you out. Definitely check them out. I think that you will, you'll be very happy with the information you'll find there, especially PPA, okay? So I've got another question here from Andy 2. And Andy asks, and I had to read this question initially twice because I think we have a language difference here, but I get the gist of it now. Andy asked me, what would you suggest for traveling? He's only been shooting locally, and he's been doing it really cheap. He admits that. He's just starting to build his business. He's been shooting for just under a year. He's been getting a lot of people lately contacting him on Instagram and asking if he could fly to them for a photo shoot. But he has basically just been telling people he doesn't really have any plans to travel at this point. So he goes on to acknowledge right now he charges too low to travel, because he's only charging $250 for a shoot, and he delivers 20 heavily retouched images so that he can build his portfolio. And he acknowledges again, yes, I know I'm charging way too little. So, but as far as traveling, his question is, should he be charging for the cost of the travel, or should he just write it off on taxes and charge the same as his basic packages? Initially, he asked me if I could make a video of it. So, Andy, here's the thing. There's a bunch of stuff that I need to tell you here. So the first one is, with regards to should you be charging for the travel cost? Oh, hell yes. My God, yes. You do not build that into your prices. You do not write it off as taxes. You charge for your parking at the airport. You charge for your airfare. You charge for, your back and forth from the airport at the other end, for your hotel. Everything. That is called cost of doing business. It doesn't change your package price, but it changes the amount that you're going to bill to the client. So you can have a rate, so to speak, And then you are going to tell the client, sure, here's my rate and you will pay for my travel. And basically you're going to invoice them directly, and that's where you will set your price, okay? So, I mean, that's pretty much cut and dry. That's an industry standard. That is, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing that. That's how it's done. But let's back up a little bit, okay? People contacting you on Instagram. So, Andy, I don't believe that I've seen any of your photography to date. So by no means do I want to doubt your ability or the quality of your work or anything else, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sound a little bit like a pessimist here, okay? And that pessimist in me is going to say, do you really think that people are going to go to Instagram and say, yeah, you know, I want you to get on an airplane and I want you to come here and take pictures for me and I'll pay you good money? Come on, man, really? No. If you manage to pull that off and you get somebody to pay you a good rate, and if you manage to get them to pay for your airfare and all that kind of stuff, please by all means let me know and I'll acknowledge to being a total pessimist. But I'm not being a pessimist. It's just not going to have to work that way. It's not going to work that way unless you've got like the most amazing photography ever, okay? You're not going to find people that are going to spend that kind of money easily on Instagram, so I won't worry about it. But you should take the same advice I gave to Steve McCarthy in the last question. Join PPA, use their pricing materials, start to raise your prices. Because if your work's that good, I don't know why you're building your portfolio. I mean, that's where I'm struggling here, Andy. You know, if your work's that amazing that people are going to fly you places, well, then you're not building a portfolio anymore, man. Get out there and start charging. Done. All right? So that would be my answer for you there. Okay. So next question. Let's see. Adamus Art asks, Joe, would you deliver customers unretouched images, say 20 of them, for them to pick the pictures they want me to retouch? He goes on to say, I only retouch about 5 of the best pictures and deliver them to the customers, but I would like them to buy more images. I don't want to retouch all 20 images for them to pick the best, because sometimes it takes hours to retouch a single image, but they may want to buy them all. Yeah, so that's a double-edged sword. There's several schools of thought. To begin with, you've got to be very honest with yourself about how good are my images really, okay? What I mean by that is, do you really have 20 amazing images? Now, I'm going to assume here, because you didn't tell me, and that's okay, but I'm going to assume that you are talking about like portraiture, okay? Because 20 images is not going to be a wedding, so I'm going to assume we're talking portraits here. That being said, I would be very, very careful about retouching 20 in the sense that you don't want to water down your offering so much that you overwhelm people. You guys have heard me say many, many times that you can be a rock star with 5 images or a hack with 10. So the challenge here is that you want to make sure that you're showing images that people are potentially going to buy. If you've got a client that you know was super excited during the shoot, and you know that they've got the means, and you are feeling really, really good about your images, and you think that you can get them to buy more by showing that 20, then I would say yes, do it, okay? Now, is it okay to show them unretouched images instead of, you know, even just retouching the 5, go with unretouched? That depends on how well you're doing in camera. If you are getting the job like 80 to 90% of the way there in camera, you could do your post-processing on the image. So remember, that's going to be like everything you do in camera raw. That's going to be your color balance, your sharpening, you know, all that kind of stuff. You could do that and then just leave out the blemishes, and you know, you're going to leave that for when they buy it. Plus, by the way, that's a great way to be able to justify what that additional cost is, because that way they can see, yeah, you've got to remove all these blemishes, you're going to take out these flyaway hairs. But there's the balance between, is all that necessary retouching because you were sloppy during the shoot, or is all that necessary retouching because they have a lot of blemishes? So there's no easy answer there. You can go ahead and you could poll 100 photographers and you're going to get at least 20 different answers to that question. It's going to vary a lot by market, because one of the other things you have to look at here, Art, is what's happening in your market. So especially, like, let's say you're in a small town and there are 5 other photographers. So if they all show 10 proofs, then you might want to consider showing 10 proofs. If they all show 20, then you might want to consider showing 20, unless you know that you can deliver something that's dramatically different, okay? So that's the key. So I would encourage you first, really think back through your customers that you work with so far and look at, you know, what has been placed. If you've been showing them 5 images, then are they buying all 5, or are they only buying 3? Also do some research then, what is your competition doing? See what else is happening in the market. And from there, you're going to make that decision. Okay? All right. Marcus Frank is asking, Joe, please tell us which company produces softboxes with white inner reflectors. I've always seen silver only. Marcus, Photoflex. If you've been watching my videos recently, I've been showing the Photoflex Octadome and the Photoflex Medium softboxes. I love Photoflex. I don't get paid by Photoflex. Yes, they sent me the 5-foot Octadome, but I've been a Photoflex user for literally just about 30 years now, almost since the company first came out. I love their stuff. They have white interiors with white baffles, all that stuff, okay? So let's see here. Matthew W. I want to improve my photography as I'm in my final year of high school. Matthew, awesome. Great to have a high schooler here. He took photography the last 2 years in a row, and he is practicing taking shots similar to Robert Mapplethorpe's style. Well, that's a very good photographer to go ahead and aim for there. Good job, Matthew. So he's just struggling to get the backgrounds to become more black and contrast. Any help would be great. Well, okay, so Matthew, here's the first thing. Number one, since it's an open question like that, that's kind of a really broad question, so it's hard for me to give you kind of a definitive answer here. But I will tell you this. Number one, if you're not a member of my Facebook group yet, you need to join the Facebook group. And in fact, here, I'll give you guys a little tip. Let me bring my Facebook group up really quick in a browser. And I want to show you guys, I'll show all of you guys why you join my Facebook group, okay? So here, let's get this up here so you can look at this. So here's the main page of the Facebook group, gang. By all means, you know, go ahead and read the wall if you want, but to heck with that. Here's the real value of this group. You come in and you click on the Photos tab, okay? Once you click on the Photos tab, now you can go through and, Matthew, you can go through this wall and you can look for pictures that you like the way they're done, okay? And the beauty of it is when you click on the picture and you bring it up, you're gonna get all the information on how it was done. You're gonna see all the comments, all the questions that were asked, the whole discussion that took place. In the case of a lot of pictures, you'll get lighting diagrams, everything. So, and you're gonna see, you know, these are not just CC welcome posts like you see in most Facebook photography groups. These are posts with tons of background information. And then the conversation continues on with the hows and whys of how it was done. So I would encourage you, Matthew, join the group. So that's step one. The link is in the description below. My buddy Chad just put it in the chat window for you there. And then let's see some of your photos that you've done one at a time. That's the group rules, okay? With all the pertinent information, and we'll be able to give you better feedback. With a little bit of information you've given me, I'll give you one simple solution. Assuming that you are lighting these shots, in other words, you've got some kind of a light source that you're putting on your subject, move your subject further away from the background. That way, and don't light the background. You are using the inverse square law to make sure that the background goes dark, okay? If you don't know what the inverse square law is, Google it, read it, learn it. If you want to be a photographer, Matthew, learn about the inverse square law, okay? All right, let's get 2 more questions in here, gang, and then we're going to call it a night, all right? The next one is from Trevor Baldwin. Trevor, I'm doing a 500 project where I shoot many types of photography with nothing but a 500 millimeter lens. You know, I was actually looking at a manual focus 500 millimeter today that I'm thinking about pulling the trigger on. I do have room in my studio for a headshot. My question is, do I have to worry about too much compression making the face flat? Wow, so you can use a 500 millimeter for a headshot? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to me it sounds like it'd be more like a nose picture. But if you got the space, I don't think there's such a thing as, well, actually, let me rephrase that, Trevor. There could be such a thing as too flat. Honestly, it's going to be very subjective. I've seen portraits, not studio portraits, but outdoor portraits done with 500 millimeter lenses. I've done something similar literally when I was a teenager because I had a 500 millimeter mirror lens. And I liked the shot. So you're going to find that it's really a matter of preference in that sense. Some people may feel that it's a little too compressed, but then again, there are people that feel that 135 millimeter lens is a little too compressed for a portrait. You know, there are people that swear by using a 50 or 60 millimeter lens for portraits, and they're not wrong. It's strictly a matter of taste and preference. So I would tell you, try it, see how you feel about it. The biggest challenge, you know, shooting a portrait with a 50 or a 500 millimeter lens is like you're shouting for your subject to hear you because you're going to be quite a distance away. So given that it's like a project that you're doing and it's, you know, really kind of a challenge, obviously, any of these projects, really you're challenging yourself to do something, I'd say, yeah, go for it. I mean, what do you have to lose, right? But I think in day-to-day practice, would I take kind of the results that you get from this experiment and then go use that on a regular basis? Nah, I don't think that I would want to use a 500 millimeter for portraits. But for your project, yeah, try it out. Cool. I'm curious, Trevor, let me know which 500 millimeter you have. I've been looking at a couple that they're like crazy expensive. They're less than $200. So I'm thinking about getting one, and I won't lie. So as much as I give people a hard time about bokeh, I'm willing to be honest. I'm thinking about buying it just so that I can get the donuts in the background because that's what it does. So there. Occasionally, Joe likes bokeh too. I just don't like bokeh balls. I like donuts. Okay, and guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and just Google 500 millimeter mirror lens. Okay, so 500 millimeter mirror lens, and click on the images tab, and you'll see what I'm talking about the donuts. Okay, all right. Last question, Marcos. Is there a possibility to take a photo and not touch anything in post-production? Can it be a studio, or can a studio photograph be perfect just as you see it in your camera? Marcos, that's like blasphemy. How could you ask such a question? It's 2017. Not use Photoshop? Really? So when it comes to photography, Marcos, you use the word perfect. In fact, Marcos has that word in quotes. Okay. When it comes to photography, perfect is subjective. It's a matter of preference, right? So, could you? Sure, but that doesn't mean the next person's going to think it's perfect, etc. And I think it also depends a lot about your subject. You know, in theory, if you're doing, let's say, a product image, could you have it come out of the camera pretty much ready to go to press? That's certainly doable. Yeah. Okay. I talked in the video that I did back at Christmas time, my Don't Be a Zombie Photographer video. I made the comment that SOOC, straight out of the camera, is not a badge of honor. I made that comment simply because indeed you see people, Facebook, best example, people on Facebook all the time posting SOOC, like they're bragging. It's like, oh, look at me, you know, I didn't do anything to this, and it's amazing. No, it's not, okay? What makes a picture amazing is the response that I have, which means it might be amazing to me, but it might not be amazing to Tony or Joe or Tasha or Adam Mussart, whomever, okay? It's strictly a matter of taste. So, you know, basically, the way I look at it, and you guys hear me talk about this a lot, I'm a firm believer of get it right in the camera. But over the course of the last 17 years since digital technology hit the mainstream, my first digital camera, first professional digital camera was the Nikon D1, okay? In that 17 years, I have altered my philosophy slightly, and that is I prefer to do everything I can to get it right in the camera, provided that I'm not wasting time, okay? So that might mean that maybe there is a stray hair that's sticking out and the light's catching it. So I'm shooting and I see that hair, and I know that I don't want it in my shot. So now I have to evaluate a couple things, and I have to evaluate this on the fly while I'm shooting. I've got a model in front of me. What I'm evaluating is, well, where's the model in this thing? Is she doing like really well? Is things going? Are we in a flow? Is it happening? In which case, if I stop and say, wait, we got to fix that hair, I lose the moment. I can fix the hair, but the question is, will I get the moment back? Or do I realize, hey, model's on a roll. This has come together really nice. It will take me literally 10 seconds to fix that hair in post-production. You can bank money. That image is going to come out of the camera with that hair sticking out, and I'm going to fix it later. So the thing you have to be careful of in that philosophy is you never want to get lazy with the idea, I'll fix it in post, I'll fix it in post, because then, yes, you're just fixing everything in post, and you're spending hours and hours and hours correcting things that should have been fixed in the camera. So I'm of the belief that digital technology opens the doors for us to be able to make very, very practical and wise decisions. So if I see something that's wrong while I'm shooting, literally what I'm asking myself is, which is quicker? And also, obviously, quality is of the absolute foremost importance here. If I'm going to sacrifice quality by doing it in post, then no, it's got to be fixed. It's straight up, it's got to be fixed in camera. But the question is, if I can do it in post without sacrificing quality, which makes more sense from a time perspective and also from the momentum of the shot that I'm building on? Do I pause and do it now, or do I keep going and do it later? So that's how I'm going to make that decision, for me at least. But I don't think that if you put 10 photographers in a room and got them to define what is the perfect picture, I'm pretty sure you'll get 10 completely different outlooks with 10 different sets of criteria. So you're not going to get multiple people to agree on that 10. And I would argue that indeed, if you're shooting a product, it would be a lot easier to get that perfect right out of the camera than it would if you're shooting a person. So those are, kind of the factors to consider there. Okay? All right, gang. So thank you so much for hanging in for the night. I hope that you all had a great time. I'm only 12 minutes late tonight. Wow, that's like, I think, a record, all right? So more videos coming out this week. Thursday night, and I know I had to reschedule it. I've rescheduled it twice. I'm horrible, but it's happening this Thursday. Thursday night is part 2 of the Google Analytics. Everything is prepped. It's ready to go. Hopefully you've got your Google Analytics installed on your website. We're going to show you how to create the reports for it. We're going to go through all that. Get out there and take some pictures, gang, whatever you do. But for now, it's time to wrap up this episode. So please go try and put all this information to use. Thank you so much for joining me. Please make sure that you hit that subscribe button, the thumbs up button, and hey, leave a comment below the video. And gang, listen, whatever you do, please remember these words. Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now go pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot, it's your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.